Okay, here's why TV licenses should be illegal and, in my opinion, are unconstitutional. And despite that, how the government is going to force everyone to pay them. Um, so let's start with how the government is going to force us to pay the TV licenses. The first step is going to be to change TV licenses into a property levy. So essentially, either the municipality or potentially SARS might be the ones collecting TV licenses, right? So let's start with, where does TV license money go? It goes to the SABC so they can waste it. And I don't know. We've had so many scandals about the broadcasting, the South African Broadcasting Commission misappropriating money, right? So they want to waste it. And another problem that I have is that the SABC makes money from adverts. Why don't you use that? So let's get into the legal aspect of why they feel entitled to our money, because they feel entitled. So they created a law that regulates broadcasting. So that law basically charges everyone who has a TV, because according to them, it's necessary to charge it in order to create content that's going to preserve South African languages and basically everything that has to do with South African culture, according to them, right? Another reason is that it's for emergency broadcasts. Like if maybe the president wants to say something, or like, hey, we're dying tomorrow, that they have a platform that they can use in order to broadcast that. So my question is, why not use radio? And in fact, why doesn't radio have a TV license? You'll be shocked to realize that radios used to have TV radio license. The problem is radios became so um, easily accessible. It didn't make sense to charge a radio license. Effectively, if radio licenses existed today, everyone with a cell phone would be required to pay a cell phone license, essentially, because every cell phone has a radio. So it became so impractical that it had to be abolished, right? So why are they feeling entitled to us paying TV licenses? It's because, according to my knowledge, they are charging us for something called a TV turner. So, for example, if you have a computer monitor in your house, you don't have to pay TV license because it doesn't have a TV turner. But if you have a TV, even if you're not using it, even if you're not using SABC or whatever the case is, they still require you to pay for it, because according to them, you are using the transmitter to receive, what do you call it, transmissions, or basically receive television broadcasts. What that basically means is that, actually, I don't really need to explain that, because it's easily understandable that you are receiving entertainment. That's the easiest way to explain it. The reason for that is that usually, or rather in the past, even still today, the government, most people would be using government towers in order to receive a broadcast. But companies like DStv don't use government towers. They use satellites. Obviously, everyone has a dish, right? So because of that dish, the government failed, because they tried. Because one of the questions that I had was, why doesn't the government go after multi-choice? Because they are the ones who are providing us with a broadcast or entertainment. So it's not our fault. Charge the person who's giving us entertainment. Why are you forcing us to pay? It turns out the government tried to go after multi-choice for DStv, but they failed, right? So they are now targeting us as the people. So anyone who has a TV, they are going to charge you for that, and it's going to eventually become a house levy. So let's get to why I think it's illegal and unconstitutional, right? South African law prevents anyone, especially like consumer law does not allow you to be forced to pay for a service that you didn't ask for. However, the government is outrightly breaking that law because they are the government. There's that law, like it exists. If someone gives you services that you didn't ask for or that you don't want, you are not required to pay for it. But because the government is the government, they are forcing it. They have created a law that basically forces you to pay them, even if they are providing a service that you didn't ask for. That's the unconstitutional aspect of it, right? Another issue is that what they've done is they have created laws to force themselves into DStv, because effectively the reason why the SABC exists on DStv, it's based on my knowledge or based on what I've seen, is that the country forced DStv to add their channels to that particular platform so that they can say, even if you don't watch them, you are getting them as part of the package. And that's why I think it's unconstitutional, because they have effectively created laws in order to enforce something that is unconstitutional. You cannot force someone to actually pay for a service they didn't request for, right? um Tax and SARS is different, because even if you don't benefit, even if you don't use everything that tax dollars pay for, there are some aspects, like you obviously benefit from having the police. You obviously benefit from having certain government departments. You don't have to benefit from everything, so tax to some extent makes sense. But SABC, the fact that we are being forced effectively to give SABC money to waste is a problem for me. It's a problem, and they claim to be using it to preserve our cultures. But you see Godzilla every week on SABC. You see, like, so many foreign content. It's not just that. Like, it's not being used to create original content. SABC is notorious for repeating old content. So what are you doing with the money that you are making from advertisers? What are you doing with okay, let me not count TV licenses, because according to um what I've read about about 86% of the country does not pay TV licenses. But I think I've made my point. I think TV licenses are not only illegal, in my opinion, they are unconstitutional. And the only reason they are allowed to exist is because the government has the written laws in order to allow themselves to enforce this nonsense. I genuinely don't understand the purpose of it. And especially in today's time, like I would understand if the SABC maybe required TV licenses in order to exist. But clearly they don't. They just want extra money to waste. Because they're making money from what do you call it? Advertisers. So if you're making money from advertisers, like SABC makes billions per annum, what do you want? Why are you charging us? Like, it's one of the most insane things. And I was like, but I studied law. Let me actually look at this. And it turns out what they're doing is illegal. But they've made it legal, basically. The core of this whole thing is the South African law does not allow anyone to force you to pay for a service you didn't ask for. And yet the government is doing exactly that. That's messed up.